At 3:41 in the morning, the ground screamed. It wasn't thunder, it was the sound of the earth tearing itself apart. I stumbled out to the porch with a flashlight just in time to see the mountain collapsing, a black river of mud and rock swallowing everything in its path. And then, in one terrible moment, it buried the glass mansion of our HOA president, Sophia Williams. Her empire disappeared in less than a minute. I had warned them. I had begged them. But power always thinks it can outvote gravity. For most of my life, I never thought I'd end up here alone, living under a mountain that felt more alive than the people around me. My name's Michael Brown, 64 years old, retired geotechnical engineer widower. I moved to Silver Crown because it was quiet, honest, untouched. You waved to the mailman, traded peaches with your neighbor, and nobody gave a damn if your grass was 2 inches too long. It was peace until money found us. When Sophia moved in, everything changed overnight. She didn't get elected HOA president, she declared it. Picture a woman in a white blazer and heels, sharper than her smile, strutting into meetings like she owned the mountain itself. Her first act wasn't to listen, it was to dictate. New rules, new restrictions, new fines. And then came her masterpiece, the Silver Crown Mountain Resort. A luxury getaway carved straight into the slope behind our homes. Glass villas, infinity pools, a gondola. It sounded insane. It was insane. But she said it would elevate our community. I raised my hand at that meeting, voice shaking but clear. Do you even know what kind of soil you're sitting on? She flashed that perfect grin. Our architect says it's perfectly safe. Architects aren't geologists, I said. That mountain is decomposed granite and shale. It's erosion prone. You start blasting and you're asking for a landslide. Sophia tilted her head like she was talking to a child. Mr. Brown, you're retired, aren't you? That one line hit harder than I wanted to admit. Retired, meaning irrelevant. But she didn't understand I'd seen hillsides collapse like dominoes after developers carved them open. I'd stood knee-deep in mud that buried homes because someone didn't listen. And I wasn't about to watch it happen again. So I pulled out my old maps, geological surveys, rainfall charts. I found slope failure data from 1978 right where she planned to build. When I tried showing it to the board, they laughed it off. 2 weeks later, the first blast shook my kitchen window. I spilled my coffee watching dust rise off the mountain like smoke from a wounded animal. They'd done it. They blew a hole straight into the slope. That afternoon, Sophia held a press event at the site, champagne glass in hand. Today, she said, we begin a new era for Silver Crown Mountain. Behind her, the ridge looked like it had been skinned alive. That was the day my patience died. I started documenting everything. Photos, slope angles, rainfall logs. Old instincts kicked in. The mountain became my patient, and I could see its pulse weakening. Meanwhile, Sophia flooded the neighborhood with glossy flyers, a vision of elevated living. Investors were coming. Property values would soar. Progress, she called it. When I tried to warn everyone again, she cut me off mid-meeting. Mr. Brown, this board has voted to limit unsolicited expert opinions. You didn't even read my report, I said. Because it's not relevant, she snapped. If you can't support progress, perhaps Silver Crown isn't the right place for you. Neighbors averted their eyes. I went home shaking. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on my porch listening to the mountain groan under the weight of arrogance. I wrote everything down, every crack, every sound, every shift in the soil. The ground was warning us. Then came the rain. Not much, just a drizzle. But by morning there was 6 inches of red mud pressed against my fence. I took photos, logged the data, sent it to the county. Weeks passed. Nothing. Bureaucracy moved slower than erosion. Meanwhile, Sophia doubled down. More blasting, more construction. When I confronted her again, she smiled like a politician. We have permits, Mr. Brown. Permits don't stop gravity, I said. And when that slope gives way, it's not going to care about your paperwork. That's when I became the enemy. The next HOA newsletter called me emotionally unstable and obstructionist. Anonymous posts accused me of sabotaging the project. Someone even threw a rock through my truck window. I started wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe I was crazy. Maybe I was clinging to ghosts and soil samples instead of moving on. Then Tom Delaney came by. Young dad, 2 kids. He whispered, "Michael, my basement's cracking." But nobody wants to stand up to her. I told him, "Don't stand up, just document. Take photos, dates, everything. If it comes to court, evidence is all that matters." He nodded, and that tiny spark of belief kept me going. Weeks later, the mountain trembled again. Another round of dynamite. I stood in the rain watching dust roll like smoke. Sophia called it Phase 2. I called it suicide. The next day she threw a press event again. Cameras, champagne speeches about luxury redefining nature. I walked up to the stage with a folder full of evidence. "Sophia, this is proof the slope is unstable," I said loudly enough for the microphones. "You're building on a ticking time bomb." She looked down, calm as ever. "We must not let fear derail progress." I slid the photos across the stage, mud lines, cracks, rainfall logs. "Progress doesn't mean ignoring physics." She smiled for the cameras. "Thank you for your passion, Mr. Brown." Moving on. That night I filed a formal complaint. City Zoning, Environmental Office, even CalGeo. I copied everyone I could. Still silence. The construction trucks kept rumbling past my house every morning. My neighbor Rosa's toddler developed a cough from all the dust. Tom's garage floor spiderwebbed with cracks. And Sophia, she strutted around the site in designer boots like a queen inspecting her kingdom. When the forecast warned of a once-in-a-decade storm, I knew it was over. The soil was already saturated. The retaining walls were leaning. I called my lawyer, Ricky Hampton. "She's about to kill someone," I told him. He sighed. "You can't stop a person like that, Mike. You can only prove them wrong after they crash." The rain came soft at first, then harder. By midnight it was relentless. From my deck I saw water carving channels into the exposed slope, streaking through the raw rock like veins of mercury. I could hear it low groans, deep and ancient. The mountain wasn't just wet. It was alive, angry, ready to move. By day 2, I was exhausted. I hadn't slept. I sat watching my trail cameras flash frames showing mud creeping rocks rolling. At 2:17 a.m., a 20-foot section slid off the ridge. I labeled it, time-stamped it. Evidence. I knew the big one was coming. And yet the next morning, Sophia's crews were back pouring concrete in the rain. I grabbed my waterproof binder and stormed uphill. "You lost part of the slope last night," I shouted through the downpour. "Stop this before someone dies." Sophia turned, drenched but defiant. "Michael, if you're here to throw another tantrum—" "This isn't a tantrum," I yelled. "That's piping erosion right there. Look, those channels will eat your foundation before the day's over." She rolled her eyes, waved at her cousin Vince. "Get him off the property." I stepped back but didn't lower my voice. "When this collapses, there'll be timestamps, video, court records, and blood on your hands." She sneered. "You're just a lonely old man with a God complex. You don't run this community, I do." Maybe she was right about one thing, the loneliness. The house had been too quiet since my wife died. But she was wrong about the rest. I didn't run the mountain. The mountain ran itself, and it was done whispering. That night the storm peaked. Wind howled, trees bent sideways, rain slammed the roof like hammers. I sat by the window, flashlight trembling in my hand. Then, 3:41 a.m. The roar came. A sound too big for language. My house shook. Pictures crashed to the floor. I ran to the porch and saw it happen. The slope gave way. The whole mountain moved. A black river of mud tore through the valley, swallowing fences, tearing trees from their roots. And then with a sickening crunch, it hit Sophia's mansion. Steel beams, twisted glass exploded, and the whole structure folded into the earth like it had never existed. Silence followed, the kind that makes your ears ring. By dawn, rescue trucks lined the road. Neighbors huddled in blankets, staring at the scar carved into our mountain. And then through the mud, Sophia stumbled out. Her white raincoat shredded, her face streaked with mascara and dirt. She didn't say a word. She just stared at me, eyes hollow as if I'd summoned the mountain myself. But I hadn't. I didn't need to. The earth had simply remembered its balance. Media vans arrived within hours. Helicopters hovered overhead. The headlines wrote themselves. HOA President's luxury mansion buried in landslide. I handed my binder to county officials, photos, rainfall logs, expert reports. I didn't feel triumphant, just tired. Sophia tried to spin it immediately. She called it an unexpected geological event. A newsletter went out blaming panic and misinformation. She meant me, of course. But this time, people weren't buying it. Too many had seen the cracks in their own walls. When the investigation began, I was ready. The task force confirmed everything, blasting poor grading, total negligence. The slope was doomed from the start. Sophia called it an act of God. The report called it man-made. She lawyered up and countersued me for inciting panic. I couldn't believe it. The woman who buried a mountain wanted to bury me next. But I wasn't alone anymore. My attorney, Dana Merriweather, was sharper than dynamite. In court, she stood beside me like a blade drawn for justice. "Your Honor," she said, holding up my reports. Mr. Brown didn't incite panic. He incited reality. The judge leaned back, unimpressed with Sophia's theatrics. "Motion granted," she said. "The counterclaim is dismissed." Sophia's face went white. Her empire cracked the way her mansion had. After that, the truth spread fast. The HOA board resigned. The resort was declared unbuildable. And in a vote that surprised even me, 87% of residents signed to remove Sophia Williams as HOA president, effective immediately. She didn't take it well. For weeks she lingered, haunting the neighborhood, whispering about lawsuits. But eventually she left. The mountain remained scarred but alive. Months later, we turned the site into a preserve. Volunteers planted grasses and trees where her glass palace once stood. And one foggy morning, Sophia showed up again. No cameras, no designer boots, just mud-stained hiking shoes and trembling hands. "Michael," she said softly, "I wanted to see it one last time." I didn't answer. "I've been volunteering at an environmental center," she whispered, "teaching kids about watersheds, about how fragile land can be." I asked, "Do you tell them about Silver Crown?" She let out a brittle laugh. "Only the parts I can say without choking." Then she pulled a small stone from her pocket, dark, smooth, tear-shaped. "I found this after the slide. I kept it, maybe to remind myself." She placed it on the bench between us. Neither of us touched it. "I hated you," she said finally. "I thought you were trying to humiliate me. But you were trying to stop me from killing someone. I'm sorry." I believed her not because of the words, but because she came alone. "I'm not the one you need to apologize to," I said quietly. "The mountain is." She nodded and walked away. I never saw her again. The following spring, we held a mountain renewal day. Neighbors planted saplings where mud once buried our fears. A child tugged my sleeve and asked, "Are you the man who saved the mountain?" I smiled. "No, kid. The mountain saved itself. I just refused to look away. Because in the end, that's the truth. We keep forgetting we don't own the land. The land owns us."